Something's been bugging me about this FLECKTARN material. Not so much the material itself, but I've noticed this flag. The black isn't noticeable, the red doesn't seem to be very noticeable, but sometimes this yellow, just this small yellow stripe here, seems to just stand out and be very noticeable. Whether it catches the eye of any bird such as a crow or a magpie or the pigeon, I just do not know. I don't think rabbits would take much notice of it, but it's just one of those things where I'm starting to wonder, something like badges on the arms or lapels, anything like that, is it worth taking these badges off first? This pattern is hardwoods, and although it's something more of a winter pattern with the darker colours, the tree bark, the brown leaves, I find it quite handy in summer in the warmer weather rather than a winter garment, simply because it's a nice light material, you don't get too hot. This particular t-shirt has got a pocket on it, it's long sleeve, and it's just nice to wear something that's cool to wear in the warm weather. And although the pattern I don't think is suited more for the greenery that I've been using it with lately, and it seems to not blend in very well, the one thing I have noticed, not only with this shirt but a few others, if you change from a dark dull area such as underneath a tree or a bush and you move out into where the light is a bit brighter, not necessarily bright sunlight, but even just bright overcast days with a thin covering of cloud, the material seems to either absorb or reflect light depending on what garment you're wearing. And this is one of these things that just strangely, when you look at it from the camera's point of view, and perhaps therefore the bird or the rabbit's point of view, it seems to change colour. Sometimes it blends in with the background, sometimes it doesn't. It's almost as if the material, whether it's the material itself or the colours used on the material, it seems to absorb the light, the reflected light around you. So if you're in a green sort of area, in undergrowth or a bush, it seems to absorb that green look about it that's being reflected off the leaves, and the material, the garment, the shirt, the coat, whatever you're wearing, it magically changes to that colour, almost like a chameleon. And then you go away from that reflected light into bright ordinary light, daylight or diffused through the cloud light, and it goes back to what you see. It's a bit of a strange one, and I'm just looking at it and thinking more about it, but sometimes a shirt such as this, I'm talking in general, not this particular pattern or this particular shirt, but sometimes you look at something and you think that won't blend in very well, and then when you're actually there out in the field in position in a stationary position, then it blends in magically. It works quite well. But obviously if I was to walk around in the open with this against green grass, tall ferns, holly bushes, and just walk past them, I'd be very noticeable. And as I've said, this shirt and a few other items, they seem to absorb the reflective light that you're standing next to, against or inwards. If you're tucking yourself well into a bush or a tree, something like that, I'm sure you'll see what I mean when you've looked back at the film. And it's a bit strange to think that sometimes what might look like a bad pattern might actually be a good one. And comparing this against what I usually term a good pattern as DPM, it looks the wrong colour, it looks the wrong shade. Forget the patterns, the things like that, I'm just talking about the actual colours and how it seems to work in the undergrowth. When you look at the two different shades and the colours, it seems to be wrong, and yet on occasions you can hardly tell them apart.